The cerulean glow of Earth's biosphere orbited silently in the void, a fragile gem cradled by vacuum and stars. From the vantage of orbit, the SS horizon looked tiny, no larger than a child's toy against the expanse of black. Yet within her sleek, silver hull, she bore the weight of humanity's greatest gamble, the Treaty of Tranquility. Admiral Elena Vega stood on the bridge, her posture as rigid as the alloy floor beneath her boots. Behind the panoramic view screen, Earth's blue curve shimmered beneath drifting white clouds. Vega's dark hair was pulled into a tight knot, her uniform immaculate, the rows of medals on her chest catching ambient light like distant suns. She inhaled, the recycled air tasting faintly of metal and ozone. "Captain Shin, report," she commanded, voice calm but edged with steel. The ship's security chief, a lean man of Korean descent, whose calm demeanor belied a battlefield tone. Vigilance stepped forward. "All defensive arrays are online, Admiral. Crew morale is high. Engineers report full pulse laser readiness, and the cloaked frigates are holding position behind the asteroid belt at Rendezvous Alpha 17. Vega nodded. "Good. And the Zelquane fleet? Sensors still show them at standard patrol points, but there are anomalies." Shin tapped a holo display. "Their battle groups have adjusted bearing. Thruster signatures are being masked by an exponential dipole field. It's sophisticated, much like what we saw before the Kurnai ambush." A cold knot formed in Vega's stomach. 5 years earlier, the Kurnai ambush had devastated 3 colony ships, leaving survivors adrift in life pods until scavenger vessels found them. Humanity's first peace delegation had dared to step unarmed onto the Kurnai's world, only to have weapons hidden in their sleeves when charges on the landing pad blew them sky high. The lesson was cruel and unforgettable. Any peace could be a trap. "Understood?" she said softly. "Monitor their every move. Colonel Reyes, keep our intel channels open. If they deviate from diplomatic protocol, I want to know the moment it happens." Colonel Simona Reyes, head of intelligence operations, gave a curt nod. Her eyes, one brown and one cybernetic blue, flicked over the data streams racing across. Her console. "Aye, Admiral. I'm also tracking chatter on their internal comms. If anything nears trigger status, we'll hear it." Vega allowed herself a moment of grim reflection. "Good. Maintain alert level amber until we've confirmed." True intent. And let the diplomats know we cannot afford complacency. The journey to Epsilon Eridana 5 days earlier. At Earth's Unified Parliament in New Nairobi, Vega had delivered the closing address under massive crystalline domes. Sunlight filtered through biological solar arrays, illuminating delegates from every continent. Economies had crashed, water wars had scorched Great Plains, and ecological collapse had driven millions into our colleges. Yet none of that mattered as much now as the chance to end centuries of interstellar bloodshed. "When we look to the stars," she had declared, "we see boundless potential for discovery and boundless risk. The Zelquane offer a path forward. Alliances in trade, shared research in quantum medicine, and the opening of safe corridors through the outer rift. I believe we must take that step, but we will not step into darkness unprepared." The crowd had erupted in applause. Among the sea of black suits, young faces glowed with hope. Scientists clutching data crystals, ex-soldiers with medals scorched onto their uniforms, and journalists whose cameras would beam the moment across thousands of light years. Yet in the shadows of the hall, whispers persisted. "But what if it's another trap? We cannot admit defeat again. Are we truly ready?" Vega had heard them, and her answer was the horizon armed, alert, and vigilant arrival at the Zelquane border now, as the horizon slipped past the Epsilon Eridani. Gravitational well, Vega pored over star charts and sensor overlays. The previously sparse patrol lanes around Zelkeen space had become densely woven, far more monitoring points than the supposed peacekeepers needed. She tapped the comb. "Admiral to Ambassador Reed." "Here," came the reply. Voice diplomatic silk. "How does our welcome look?" Ambassador Mara Reed once, a feminist theorist turned interstellar negotiator, spoke from her office aboard the Horizon's diplomatic module. A hologram of her warm face flickered before Vega. Reed's eyes were bright with optimism. "They've laid out a shimmering pavilion on the fourth moon of Zelkeen Prime. It's built from crystallized. Biolume reflects the native sky patterns. Zelkeen artists designed it, and they've even painted Earth's oceans in the archways." Vega allowed a half-smile. "Beautiful. Keep the delegates ready. I want the ceremony to appear as genuine as possible. Of course, you know they're offering to host our entire delegation fully unarmed. It's a bold gesture. Or a lure." Vega's tone was flat. "Remember Kernoi. Trust but verify." The Grand Embassy ceremony on July 25, 2125, the SS Horizon arrived at lunar orbit around Zelkeen Prime. From the bridge, Vega watched as the moon's crystalline pavilion rotated into view, spires of pale biolume catching starlight. Beneath its arches, hundreds of Zelkeen in ceremonial regalia, elongated limbs draped in luminescent fabrics, stood in silent rows. The Horizon's shuttle bay doors parted, and a procession of 8 sleek transports descended through the swirling atmosphere. Ambassador Reed led a contingent of 20 diplomats, scientists, engineers, linguists, and 2 former combat veterans who'd insisted on civilian status for the mission. They wore plain gray suits, no visible weapons, no armored plating. A show of trust. Vega's heart pounded as the shuttles touched down on biolume-lit pads. In the comm channel, she whispered to Captain Shin, "Security teams, keep visible arms holstered or have kinetic disruptors ready under the suits. If things go sideways, we hit full shields and extract." Shin's reply crackled. "Understood. We move on your command." The pavilion's massive doors slid open with a crystalline chime. Ambassador Reed stepped onto the platform, arms raised in greeting. Zol Thra emerged from the haze of vapor, a silhouette of imperious grace. Her compound eyes shone black and silver. Her mandibles clicked once, a solemn salute. The universal translator echoed Zolthroi's message in 7 human tongues. On this day of convergence, let the stars bear witness to a new chapter. No claw, no blade shall cross the sanctified ground of peace. May all who stand here find purpose in unity. The human delegation advanced, and handshakes truly unarmed were exchanged. Cameras aboard the Horizon beamed live footage to every colony. Historic peace accord underway. Thousands watched, tears in their eyes, as former enemies became friends. So it seemed. The unseen threat, but as applause echoed through the pavilion, Vega studied the holopad passed to her by Captain Shin. Sensor readings highlighted 6 battle groups, each composed of 10 cruisers and 20 corvettes holding in orbital, waiting patterns just beyond the pavilion's safety bubble. Their ion signatures were masked. Only anomaly readings betrayed their presence. Vega closed her eyes for a heartbeat. Then she stepped out of the bridge's observation port, gathering her inner circle in the map chamber. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, voice low, "what we see here is not a genuine peace. It is a calculated trap. We have bargained for the lives of our people in exchange for their artifice." General Arjun Patel, the fleet commander, his right arm blackened by a death field burn from the first contact war, leaned forward. "Are we certain? Every signature matches the pre-battle deployment we intercepted before Kernoi," Colonel Reyes confirmed. "They've improved their masking tech, but our SIGINT still picks it up. Silence fell, and Viga's gaze hardened. We proceed as planned. We honor the ceremony, but stay armed. We will not be outmaneuvered. When the signal comes, we'll prove that humanity's spirit cannot be baited into submission. As the diplomats filed back indoors oblivious to the hidden Armada, Vega issued her final order. Alert level crimson. Shields up. Fleet, prepare to engage on my mark. For Earth, for our colonies, and for every soul that dared to dream of peace. Above the crystalline arches, the first biolume lights flickered in harmonic sequence, eerie prelude to the storm that simmered in the void. A dawn of hope glowed bright, yet within its radiance lay the spark of potential destruction. Humanity had come unarmed by promise, but it carried steel in its heart. The calm facade of diplomacy masked a tempest brewing in the depths of space. While the SS Horizon carried Earth's emissaries onward to the treaty insignia station, two war councils met worlds apart, one in the polished command modules of humanity's flagship, the other in the biocrystal halls of the Zalqueen hive. The gathering storm, deep within the Horizon's armored hall, Admiral Elena Vega convened her most trusted officers in the Takov's chamber. Holographic star charts shone overhead, each flickering point representing a potential battlefield. Vega's voice cut through the low hum of data streams. Battle groups Alpha through Foxtrot have deviated by exactly 2.3 degrees from standard patrol vectors, she reported, tapping the projection until 6 crimson blips pulsed at the edge of sensor range. Their approach suggests a coordinated pincer aimed at the treaty insignia station once our diplomats are inside its safety bubble. General Arjun Patel leaned forward, his artificial arm servos whispering as he adjusted. The Hala. At that vector, they can activate planetary defense girdles around 5 inhabited moons within 30 minutes, he calculated. If they cut us off, we lose any chance to evacuate our people. Colonel Simona Reyes nodded. Our encrypted intercepts confirm. Preparations for simultaneous lockdown reactor catalysts engaged, gravity anchors calibrated, and microdetonators positioned at every docking junction. Captain Marcus Shin, shading his eyes from the faint glare of the map, chimed in. Stealth frigates are holding at Rendezvous Alpha 17, masked by Asteroid Field 42. They can slip through the outer girdles undetected. Once they're in position, they'll unleash drone swarms to neutralize our orbital defenses. Vega's fingers drummed on the polished obsidian table. We expected treachery. We anticipated a trap. But we will not be baited into surrender. She tapped a command. Instantly, schematics of every cruiser, corvette, and destroyer in the United Earth Expeditionary Fleet unfurled around them. Divide into 3 strike wings, she ordered. Wing 1, under Patel, will advance to breach the girdles on Zalqueen. Prime's moons. Wing 2, led by Shin, will position covertly beyond the anti-orbital arrays. Wing 3, my command, remains on standby to reinforce any point of engagement. The officers acknowledged in unison, their resolve as steely as the weapons they carried. Yet behind each set of eyes flickered the same question. Could humanity's blade stay sharp long enough to carve out true peace? 2. Preparations of Juarez. The Horizon slipped away. Captain Shin's security teams readied their gear. In the lower decks, weapons officers calibrated kinetic disruptors, rifle-sized ports that could rip through composite armor, and plasma interceptors for point defense. Turrets. Engineers retrofitted the shuttle bay with magnetic catapults capable of launching armed boarding torpedoes in the event of a treaty breach. Lieutenant Kaoru Iwata, head of shuttle operations, oversaw the installation of concealed rollers beneath. Diplomatic seats. If things go south, she explained, the entire floor drops out and we decompress the pavilions in microseconds. Any uninvited guest not strapped in is sent tumbling back to space. Her words drew murmurs of approval. Meanwhile, deep within the intelligence deck, Colonel Reyes decrypted fresh Zelqueen chatter. A minor data packet bore the label Cadenza, final, and inside lay precise coordinates for every battle group coordinates that coincided not with patrol loops, but with the treaty insignia station's satellite grid. Reese Cybernetic. I glowed as she parsed the data. They planned to isolate the station at 9:47 GSC*, cutting off external comms for exactly 47 seconds, the time it takes to detonate 3 reactor capacitors embedded in the ring's support beams. After that, they'll demand unconditional surrender from whoever remains alive on the platform. Adrenaline spiked in her veins. She forwarded the intel to Vega with a single note: countermeasure protocols required. Within seconds, Vega issued code Swordbreaker, the fleet's emergency engagement order. Glossary: GS Galactic Standard Andra, GSC Galactic Standard. Chronometer Glossary: GS Galactic Standard Andran. The enemy's Webon Zelqueen Prime, beneath the cathedral height spires of Biocrystal, Zalthra watched. The human fleet's movements through a panoptic visor brimming with pulsating glyphs. Around her, the Hive Council 6 chitin-clad overlords milked every twitch of data. Human Admiral Vega anticipates our assault. Intoned High Prelate Rincor, mandibles clicking in a staccato rhythm. She has divided her forces in 2. Strike wings. Their stealth frigates lie in ambush behind asteroids. They guard every flanking vector. Zalthra's multifaceted eyes narrowed. Let them position, she replied. Our trap remains unbroken until the last cord severs. Once the girdles engage, every wing they send will find itself isolated and destroyed. She flicked the segmented antenna, summoning her chief engineer, Vialara. In her laboratory of swirling biolooms and liquid crystals, Vialara was finalizing the exponential dipole shielding that cloaked battle groups from Horizon's standard sensors. Each field bisected electromagnetic signatures, delaying detection until the fleet was within weapons range. But whispers of human countermeasures had unsettled her. Chiefess, she began, our masking tech is near perfection, but the humans may deploy Takin-based disruptors, sort of reverse dipole pulse, that can collapse our shroud. Zolthra leaned forward, her voice low and deadly. And ensure your fields can pulse in irregular intervals. We will override any predictable pattern. She turned, exoskeleton brushing ambient light. We test on Grid 7 fire at will. Across the simulation grid, slender cruisers materialized, then vanished in quick flickers as real-time pulses distorted the program. Vialara adjusted waveforms until the projections held firm. Impenetrable, she declared, sweat bead-like droplets of resin on her carapace. Excellent, Zalthra replied. Prepare to activate on my command. Today, we shatter their hubris. 4. Into the dark back aboard the Horizon, Admiral Vega paced the upper bridge, the galaxy unfolding on every screen. Each data stream affirmed the worst. The girdles were powering up. Shields hum with escalating intensity, and beam frequencies at the treaty station were locked to Zelqueen protocols. She paused at a viewport, gazing at a distant nebula tinted lavender by stellar winds. Memories stirred, the children clutching candles at Earth's vigil, the veterans' flag-draped graves on Mars, the sleepless nights spent drafting contingency plans. All those hopes rested on the next few hours. Soft chime announced an incoming encrypted message from Ambassador Reed. Vega opened it. The text read, Diplomats aboard Treaty Station report cordial greetings. Zelqueen engineers wish to show us the newly built Medica pod. They'll escort our delegation personally, all unarmed. Vega's jaw tightened. She called in Captain Shin. Prepare the escort squadrons. she ordered. They'll need more than translators if this courtesy tour goes dark. Turning back to her officers, she gave the final directive. All hands, stand by at alert level crimson. Deploy point defense drones to the corridor entrance ports. Keep every railgun and pulse turret hot. When the signal hits either a drop-and-come signal or an artificial pulse on the girdles, we respond instantly. Colonel Reyes' voice crackled over Vega's comms. Ma'am, I've uploaded a kill switch protocol to every shuttle. If we lose contact with the fleet for more than 30 seconds, the shuttles auto-deploy countermeasures escort drones. We'll scramble, and the hull portholes will flood with inert gas to keep intruders off balance. Vega allowed herself a brief nod of approval. Excellent work. This will be the first true test of humanity's resolve. Lights dimmed as the horizon shifted into tactical blackout. Shields hummed, weapons whispered readiness, and every officer strapped in like a soldier marching to war. Outside, the void swallowed their silhouettes, leaving only the faintest glow of armored hull and the distant shimmer of anticipation dot in the hush before battle. Admiral Vega whispered to herself, "May the stars bear witness. We came armed, but not for vengeance. We came armed for survival and for the chance to forge a peace worth keeping." And somewhere in the mirrored depths of Zelqueen space, Zol Thra mirrored that same determination each side, poised on the brink of betrayal and opportunity. The shadows had gathered, and only the unflinching will of two races would decide which would emerge into the light. A hush fell over the treaty insignia station as the first beams of the artificial dawn spilled through its crystalline windows. The ring-shaped habitat hovered above Zelqueen Prime, its bioluminescent supports pulsing in welcome to the morning butt. Beneath that gentle glow, a storm of betrayal gathered. Morning ceremony delegates from Earth and Zelqueen alike gathered in the grand concourse. Human scientists in muted gray tunics stood beside insectoid Zelqueen scholars, their multifaceted eyes reflecting the intricate geometric patterns carved into the vaulted ceiling. Soft music, an amalgam of human strings and Zelqueen choral, hum-drifted through the arches, celebrating the joint research accord on quantum biosynthesis. Admiral Elena Vega watched from the observation gallery, concealed behind one of the station's transparent armor panels. She wore her ceremonial whites, medals arranged by protocolary decree, but her hand never strayed far from the plasma pistol holstered at her thigh. Below her, diplomats mingled, raising crystalline cups of synthetic wine in toasts of peace stock at precisely 9:45 GSC. Zolthra emerged from the opposite gallery, her chitinous exoskeleton gleaming. She carried the treaty scroll, a woven lattice of light-etched biocrystal. Delegates hushed as she ascended the dais. Today, Zolthra's voice resonated through the translation array. We pledge our corporations, our knowledge, and our honor to this promise of unity. Applause rippled through the hall. Vigas, come crackled, all wings in position, awaiting final trigger. She nodded imperceptibly. 2. The signal 2 minutes later, the station's outer girdles pulsed with energy. On the horizon's tactical screens, lights flickered as 6 planetary defense networks initiated lockdown sequences. Communications from the moons snapped to Zelqueen-only frequencies. At 9:47 GSC sharp, a shrill klaxon echoed through the concourse, and the station's gravity modulators shuddered. Pandemonium erupted. Plaza tiles shifted as gravity tilted, sending delegates stumbling against crystalline pillars. Wine cups shattered, hissing steam as synthetic wine evaporated. Overhead, emergency lights bled crimson. Ambush! Vega snapped into her comb. From concealed hatches behind the dais, armed security teams emerged, rifles raised but plasma lances from hidden Zelqueen guard slashed across the concourse, forcing them back. Vega activated her personal shield, colorless and shimmering. deflecting a lethal bolt that would have torn her in two. She fired in return, a controlled burst that carved a smoking gouge in the floor beside her attackers. The translators garbled, their screeches into static. Delegates screamed, diving for the protective alcoves assigned for emergencies. 3. Rebel justice above the concourse. Stealth frigates from Wing 2 slipped past the perimeter defenses. Under Admiral Vega's orders, they descended on relay buoys orbital platforms that powered the station's lockdown. Magnetic clamps snaked around the buoys, and human engineers in armored EVS suits boarded, severing power conduits. As each station blinked offline, the girdles flickered and died. Back in the concourse, Colonel Simona Reyes led the breach team through a shattered side door. She barked orders, her cybernetic eye locking on every motion. Clear left corridor, then sweep the medbay. The diplomats must be secured. Lieutenant Kayaru Iwata crouched behind a broken fountain of levitating water orbs, her kinetic disruptor. Humming, she signaled the shuttle crews via wrist comms. Floor plates reset in 5 seconds. We drop to vacuum protocol. Any intruders unrestrained will be ejected. Marines sprinted forward, plasma shields raised. The dark corridors echoed, with the harsh clatter of boots. Overhead, the station's public address system crackled. Surrender now or perish. But the static that followed bore the telltale signature of human. Encryption.iv. Showdown at the Nexus. At the station's central hub, the control nexus all through waited. Holographic schematics of the station's core revolved around her, lights dimming as the lockdown shut down. She clutched the treaty scroll in one armored hand, her other gripping a phase rifle. You came armed, she hissed as Vega and Patel's teams burst through the reinforced doors. Vega advanced, shield raised. Because you betrayed the sanctity of this place. We had to protect our own. Patel lowered his railgun. No more games. Release the delegates and stand down. Zolthra's compound eyes flared. Human arrogance knows no bounds. You think because you disable our girdles you can destroy our will? Behind her, Zelkeen engineers fanned out, glimmering power conduits arcing with raw energy. The station lurched as deactivated girdles overloaded. One of the support pylons cracked, sending a tremor through the entire ring. Vega seized the moment. On me, she shouted. Simona, detonate the EMP charges at the junction points. Raise triggered the charges. In a thunderous pulse, electromagnetic waves surged through the nexus, blacking out the lights and short-circuiting every energy weapon within 30 meters. The hum of machinery died, leaving only the labyrinthine hiss of decompression valves as air began to flee the corridors. In the darkness, Vega's night vision HUD glowed emerald. She lunged forward, weapon butt smashing into Zolthra's rifle, sending the chiefess sprawling. General Patel and the Marines secured the engineers, cuffing them with magnetized restraints. A lone beam of red emergency light illuminated the treaty scroll as it clattered to the floor. Vega retrieved it and raised it aloft. This peace will be honored on true terms or not at all. Aftermath and restraint sirens wailed as power slowly restored. Human medics poured into the concourse, attending wounded Zelqueen guard and human diplomats alike. Vega surveyed the scene. Broken biolume pillars, scattered bodies, and terrified faces, human and insectoid mixed in shock. She knelt beside a slumped Zelqueen corporal, gently removing a plasma shard from its forelimb. The creature's mandibles clicked in confused gratitude. Patch protocol. Don't let them bleed out, Vega ordered a nearby medic. We came armed, yes, but we will not murder those who trusted in peace. Above, the fleet's heavy cruisers formed a protective canopy, their turrets tracking any rogue vessel. Stealth frigates drifted back to formation as Admiral Vega's voice echoed through the station's comm. Listen well. Zolthra, we have neutralized your trap. Release all captives, civilian and military. We will deliver the treaty scroll to your hive council untainted and unharmed, so that true negotiations may begin. Failure to comply will result in the destruction of this station and all life upon it. Silence answered her. Then, on the far side of the concourse, Zolthra emerged, supported by 2 guards. Her crest drooped a sign of solemn concession. She lifted a slender arm in formal salute. I yield, she rasped through the translator. Let us forge a peace born of trial and tempered by honor. Admiral Vega nodded, relief and vigilance warring in her chest. She signaled Reyes to secure the perimeter and Patel to open a secure channel to Zelqueen Prime. As human and Zelqueen representatives gathered around the fallen treaty scroll, the station's damage control teams began repairs, and the trembling. Hopes of 2 civilizations flickered back to life. Not in the stillness that followed, Vega whispered to herself, we came armed. But it was our restraint that proved our strength. And somewhere in the machinery's hum, a new accord born, of conflict, yet aimed at unity, was taking root. The blood-red glow of emergency beacons faded into pale biolume as the battered treaty insignia station came back online. Engineers, human and Zelqueen, alike worked side by side under flickering lights, repairing bulkheads and rerouting power conduits. In the grand concourse, columns of translucent crystal were mended, and the shattered fountain of levitating orbs was slowly recalibrated. A reconciliation at dawn as the station's gravity returned to normal. Delegates gingerly stepped from their protected alcoves. Ambassador Mara Reed, face streaked with soot and grime, rose unsteadily. She saw Colonel Simona Reyes kneeling beside a wounded Zelqueen guard, applying a medical nanogle. At that moment, human and insectoid eyes met. Across the concourse, no words were needed. Their shared suffering spoke volumes. High, Prelate Rincor limped forward, one chitin-plated leg scorched by a stray plasma burst. He carried a folded banner, the Zelqueen emblem, beneath the human eagle of tranquility. With trembling mandibles, he presented it to Vega. Let this symbol rest, he intoned through the translator, his voice thin but earnest. May the bloodshed here be the last paid in deceit. Vega accepted the banner, brushing off a fleck of crystal dust. We stood armed, she replied quietly, not to conquer, but to protect our own, and to show that peace must be earned. Around them, the concourse fell silent as Zelqueen and human medics tended to fractures and burns, exchanging cautious nods. A chorus of mechanical hums blended with whispered apologies, and for the first time since dawn, there was a fragile unity in the air.ii. Forging the new charter 2 days later, the great hall of the treaty station gleamed with fresh banners. Human nav blue decaled columns interwove with Zelqueen biocrystal arches. Delegates assembled at long tables arranged in an oval no dais to separate conqueror from conquered. Solar sails overhead diffused sunlight into prismatic rainbows that danced across every face. Admiral Vega sat beside Zalthra. Neither wore weapon holsters. Instead, data crystals glowing with diplomatic text lay before each delegate. General Patel opened the session. By our ordeal, we have tested one another, he began. We have learned that trust without vigilance is folly, and vigilance without compassion is tyranny. Zolthra inclined her head. And we have felt the strength of your convictions, Admiral. You came armed to ensure survival, not to spill blood needlessly. The room exhaled as translators scrolled in unison. Over the next 8 hours, human jurists and Zelqueen legalists debated clause by clause. Clause 1, a mutual inspection regime, every cryovault, data core, and weapons. Base subject to quarterly audits by a mixed commission. Clause 2, an open trade corridor through the outer rift, safeguarded by joint patrols aboard hybrid frigates. Clause 3. Shared research on planetary terraforming and biofeld quantum communications, with all findings placed in the common knowledge. Archive. Clause 4. A council of 10-5 human, 5 Zelqueen to arbitrate disputes, convening in rotation on Earth, Zelqueen Prime, and the Treaty Station. Clause 5. A ritual of mutual acknowledgement. Once each galactic year, delegations exchange symbolic gifts beneath the stars of convergence. When at last the final line was etched into the crystalline ledger, Vega and Zolthra pressed their palms and claws together over the scroll. The translators projected their joined biometrics onto the wall's 2 patterns, intertwining in a flourish of color. "We swear," they intoned together, "to uphold this charter in honor of those who fell, and in hope of those yet to come." 3. Trials and unity in the weeks that followed. Testimonies of the ambush swept across both civilizations. On Earth, hollow newscasts showed Zelqueen engineers salvaging human medical supplies and human crews hauling wounded Zelqueen to field hospitals on Mars. On Zelqueen Prime, children peered through observation ports as the Horizon's engineers trained Zelqueen technicians in hyperfusion reactor maintenance. Amid these exchanges, small seeds of friendship sprouted. Lieutenant Kaioru Iwata taught Zelqueen artisans to weld Terran steel into their biocrystal lattice, adding tensile strength to living architecture. In return, Via Lara, Zal 3's chief engineer, demonstrated bioluminescent algae cultivation. To illuminate colony farms on Luna 7 Dot at the station's Medicapod, Dr. Lena Ortiz, human virologist, collaborated with Zelqueen xenobiologists to adapt nanogenes that could neutralize common plague strains on both worlds. Patients whispered thank yous in 7 dialects as they recovered, yet not all was smooth. Hardliners on both sides bristled at the mingling of cultures. Human xenoseparatists bombed supply depots on Phobos, while Zelqueen zealots sabotaged trade convoys near the Perseus outpost. Each betrayal threatened to unravel the fragile peace. Admiral Vega and Zal Thra met these challenges with military discipline and diplomatic grace. They dispatched joint rapid response teams, pairing a human pathfinder with a Zelqueen cyclognet to defuse bombs and mediate protests. They held open forum summits where citizens aired grievances and forged community accords. Trial, the charter proved resilient. Its clauses provided not just rules, but pathways to reconciliation. Joint patrols built camaraderie. Shared research fostered mutual respect. And the annual Stars of Convergence ritual gave both races a moment to celebrate progress. 4. New Horizons 1 year after the ambush. The Treaty Insignia Station's balcony looked out upon a breathtaking tableau. Earth's blue marble, Zelqueen. Prime's emerald continents, and dozens of colony worlds ablaze with life. On that balcony stood Admiral Vega and Zolthra, now honored as co-protectors of the Charter. They addressed a congregation of 20,000 or the aggregated. Consciousness beamed across the hypernet. Below, children held biolume lanterns. Soldiers in hybrid armor stood at attention. Scientists raised test tubes in salute. Vega's voice carried through the translators. We came believing peace was within reach, yet we armed ourselves in preparation for betrayal. Through that crucible, we discovered the true cost of trust and the strength born of restraint. Zalthra's mandibles clicked in solemn agreement. The peace treaty was a trap, but we came armed anyway, and thus forged a peace stronger than any weapon. In unison, they activated the Dawn Beacon, a massive laser-etched projector on the station's zenith. It carved living biocrystal, runes into space, spelling out the Charter's key precept, honor tempered by vigilance. Across thousands of light years, receivers on every world registered the signal. illuminating skies in soft, unifying glow dot as the runes faded into starlight. Humanity and the Zell Queen turned toward new frontiers. Mutual defense against rogue empires in the Orion Expanse. Collaborative archaeology on the ruins of the ancients in the Pegasus Nebula. And shared schools where children of both races learned history and mathematics side by side. And so, from the ashes of a polished trap, grew a peace tempered by trial, armed not merely with guns, but with the unwavering resolve to protect one another, and the promise that, together, they would face whatever the cosmos could throw their way.